Hello, good morning, everyone, and welcome to this webinar with Professor Roberto Baldoni on charting digital sovereignty. My name is Rui Oliveira, and I'm here today in my role of co-director of the Executive Master on Cybersecurity Management offered by the Porto Business School. First of all, I would like to welcome Professor Roberto Baldoni and express my gratitude for his presence today and his ongoing support for the Executive Master in Cybersecurity Management since its inception. Thank you, Roberto.
Thank you very much, Rui, for inviting me.
For those who don't know Professor Baldoni, he served as the first General Director of Italy's National Cybersecurity Agency until 2023. And before this, he spent 4 years as Deputy General Director of Italian Intelligence. Roberto, with over 20 years of experience as Professor of Computer Science at Sapienza University of Rome. Actually, it was where we met many years ago. He has been a key figure in shaping Italy's and Europe's cybersecurity landscape. His contributions include architecting the new Italian cybersecurity architecture, the national security perimeter for cyber law, and the Italian cybersecurity strategy for 22-26. Much of Roberto's experience as responsible for the Italian intelligence as Italy's national cybersecurity agency can be found in Baldoni's recent book, after which we named the webinar, Charting Digital Sovereignty, a Survival Playbook. Let us start, Roberto. This will be a conversation among the two of us and our audience. Our audience will be attending us on YouTube, and I encourage everyone to put us questions on YouTube that I will be happy and I will be my best to follow to Roberto's. So maybe we could start and right now, and maybe something I would like to say is that achieving and maintaining digital sovereignty is one of the main concerns and challenges of any nation nowadays. And this goes on as every day passes, and we observe what is going on with everything that surrounds us with digital challenges and dangers. But to start and to make sure we are all on the same page, what is exactly digital sovereignty, Roberto?
So thank you very much, Rui, for this nice introduction. I think that it's very important, especially when politicians talk about technical stuff, to be really on the same page on what is the meaning of digital sovereignty, because actually there is a lot of people that when think about digital sovereignty as actually only the data sovereignty in mind, or others that look at sovereignty of technology or other different kind of sovereignty. So it's very important to define the sphere of influence of digital sovereignty in order to understand which are the threats and from which we have to defend. So digital sovereignty starts talking about data. The data are produced in a nation. And we know that, data are actually right now the most important, let's say, driver of wealth generation. If you think about artificial intelligence, if you think about all the digital transformation that we had so far, this create a great wealth for the country. But in order to exploit this, a nation need to have the right, I would say, tools, where for tools I don't only mean the technological tool. This is, of course, a part of the picture, but a country need also the right laws, the right institution, the right competencies that have to be created in the country. So it's really a kind of 360-degree of things that you have to set up in your country. Let me say that this does not start from scratch. So actually, it's more or less 40 years that we are creating this digital transformation. So 40 years ago, the digital sector was more or less like other important sector for the economy, like automotive, like other manufacturing and other telecommunication and others. But in the last 40 years, the digital transformation created this that we call cyberspace, where actually all the economy has been brought. So there is at the moment no sector of the economy that has not been transformed by the sequence of technology that happen in digital transformation, starting with the high powerful server, TCP/IP, and then the cloud, and then now the artificial intelligence. So everything, all the economy now run on top of the cyberspace. That's why when we talk about digital sovereignty, this means also that has a lot of connection with national security. Because what's happened if if the Portuguese cyberspace cannot be reached or is unavailable for, I don't know, 3 hours? That is really a national security issue, because all the economy risks to blow. So that's why it's very important to understand the borderline of this cyberspace with respect to the single nation, what a nation can do in order to address these issues. Again, it's not only a technical issue, but you have to bring this at the very top political level. Because when you talk about cybersecurity, it's something that refers usually to the prime minister or to a president. And of course, he has to or she has to be aware of what's going on in order to take the appropriate measure if something is going bad, either in your own cyberspace or in other cyberspace. As you know, everything is connected right now. If something happened in Australia, you cannot say, okay, Portugal is now safe, because these things propagates at the speed of light. So anyone has to be very careful what's going on and preparing for this from different kind of angles: the technological preparation, the workforce preparation, the institutional preparation, and the industry preparation. So that's why it's a very complex understanding that, of course, is moving, because technology is moving. So till few years back, we had an important issue, and we still have, of course, with cyber attack, but now realize that artificial intelligence brings completely other threats. And when we will have quantum computers, then other threats will go to add to this. And we should not be shocked by that or intimidated by that. We need to manage them. And we need to manage in an appropriate way, or as we say, in a holistic way. And it's very important, just for this introductory question, to realize a few things. Geopolitics is intimately connected to cyberspace. And we know this. We notice this when you see the litigation between China, to say the least, litigation, and US on chips manufacturing, or for the telco providers, which kind of technology we have to use inside our network, because of course, for the reason that I said before, as cyberspace is central to the economy, everything that compose the cyberspace becomes relevant for national security issue. And the final thing is, in the last few years, thanks to the globalization that started, let's say, in the 80s and lasted till 2014 in a very strong way, we created a lot of supply chain that span globally, and many of the let's say manufacturing industry are now in countries which have, let's say, very far values with respect to the Western values. I'm talking to China. There was something in Russia. We have important things that happen in other countries like India. So we have to be very careful because everything is interconnected right now. And when something change also from a political decision in one country, then it has a repercussion through the supply chain in the whole planet. And of course, we have to take care of this as well. So supply chain, global supply chain, geopolitics, digital transformation, and cyberspace, these are all things that are connected together. And we have to see this as a unique landscape in order to understand what's going on and to figure out precise action to be taken when something happens somewhere else in the world or in the country itself.
Thank you. So before, yeah, everything is interrelated. Everything is happening at the speed of light. Something happened. Something badly happened since you start answering these questions. So it's very real time challenges and threats. And you mentioned some of the things that we have in our mind recently about threats, but can you delve a bit in terms of what are the main threats for digital sovereignty, maybe before we get into understanding how to counter them?
Well, let's say first of all what digital sovereignty is from an ideal perspective, okay? So digital sovereignty means that the country should need to have control, I would say an authority over the data that are produced by the nation itself. For example, is able to collect, to understand where the data are, and so on and so forth. We know that this is actually impossible for the full spectrum of data generated by Portugal, for example. But of course, there are data and data. Maybe there are sensitive data that where you really need to give a look at, and the end that handles this data should be Portuguese ends. So that's why it's very important having an understanding of the data that you are generating. Then that is not enough because data are processed by technology and by humans. So you need capabilities in order to process this data. And of course, it would be great that Portugal or Italy would have all the technology to develop this data. We know that we don't have it. We need to borrow from here and there technology, and then we need to understand how the usage of this technology can be done in a safe way. The same is for the workforce. I mean, we are producing a lot of engineers, and in Italy, many of them go abroad. I don't know if you have the same problem in Portugal, but at the end of the day, you need a workforce for your country in order to to manage all this data, all this technology that is in the cyberspace. And of course, as you well know, Rui, actually 40 years ago, we just need for a small medium enterprise of one person to manage, the system manager, to manage all the different computers that you have in a country, in a small medium enterprise. Now you need the system manager, the software engineer, the cloud expert, the cybersecurity expert, and the artificial intelligence expert. So you have multiplied by 5, and I'm just doing a kind of lower bound, because then, of course, if you have a big company, you multiply this by, so you need people, and we don't have all these people. I will come back to this later when I will talk about the threat. So, but even though we are able to manage all the data, we ideally have all the technology. We know that many cyber attacks comes because people actually is not completely aware of the action that they have to do in cyberspace. Imagine, the employee or the CEO of a company that, through some engineering action, just, you can pick up them their passwords and credential in order to get into some information system of a company, and then deploy a ransomware. So the awareness of the people, according to the hierarchy that they have in the society, they need to know about the fact that they are living in another world, which are other rules with respect to the physical world that we know. But even though we would have very people that is very aware of the problems, best technology, homebrewed technology, and we know all the data, we know perfectly that we cannot do anything as a single nation. We need to create, collaboration in a dynamic way. When I say collaboration with other nations, I mean operational collaboration. If you need to, if you want to, let's say, bring down a cyber crew, a ransomware crew, then you need collaboration between at least 10 different countries, because you need to reach all the resources that they have. So, we really need these 4 things: data, capabilities, technological and human, awareness of the society, and the international collaboration as much as we can.
Yeah, Robert. So one of the main things, as we mentioned, and we have, as you mentioned, and we have been seeing, is that no nation, no country, no continent is self-sufficient. Okay, no one. So you not only need to you not only depend on something that comes from another nation, and at the same time you need collaboration when dealing with the threats, or even with something that already happened and you need to solve. So all these dependencies, be it technological, be it social, create this new threats and new awareness of the problems of the supply chain. Okay, so because the supply chain is something that is more and more complex as technology goes more complex. You need more components. You need more. Everything gets much more intertwined and complex. Maybe it's why there's this such a problem nowadays with one of the major nations in the world worried about the supply chain of, let's be clear here, microprocessors from another big nation in the world. So how do you think how do we counter threat this how do we charter this sovereignty starting by the supply chain?
So supply chain is one of the most difficult threat that we have to digital sovereignty, because it attacks the capabilities, the technological capabilities that you have in your country. And of course, it's not only a technological problem, but it's also a problem of integrity of the personnel that you have in the supply chain that at the end provide you the final service. It's a problem of trustworthiness of the companies that are inside the supply chain, because of course there could be overarching geopolitical reason that one day could stop this company to cooperate in the supply chain, for example, stopping maintenance or other things. So that's why, and this comes back to my original point that, you know, you have this interconnection between geopolitics, digital transformation, and supply chain. So if you look at a nation, what does it need, this nation, in order to, let's say, work in its own cyberspace? It needs a continuous and dependable access to, let's say, technological capabilities. I'm talking about cloud, I'm talking about telco, I'm talking about AI, I'm talking about all these kind of different technologies where you need services and technology from one end, microchip as well as you mentioned, and on the other end you need people. And if you think about what could be a dependable technological capability, I think it should have three basic qualities. First, it has to be reliable, and here is the technological reliability. So at the end, you need to provide a service or a software or a device which is secure from the point of view of cybersecurity, okay? And this is one part. Then it has to be, let's say, there should be integrity of the personnel that works through all the supply chain. And think about what's happened to Hezbollah pagers that exploded, you know, due to this supply chain attack done by the Mossad of Israel. So there was a breach in the integrity of the person. So actually, that is another very important thing. And of course, it's completely another domain, which is very far from technology. And then you have the third one, probably the most important, is when a company is grounded in a country which is a systemic rival. let's talk about China and US. So why US blocked all the export from Huawei and ZTE on his own network for national security reason. And this, of course, comes back to the trustworthiness of the company that is supplying the manufacturers for two very simple reasons. The first is that there could be espionage, so information that can be processed by this technology and then sent to other places. The second and the most important one is the following. If geopolitical things will go bad in the next years, and we know that something is going bad in the last years, so this change from let's say the globalization to the post-globalization period with you know, multipolarities, with regional powers that want to let's say declare its power in its region, is creating the war. And we know what's happened in Ukraine, and we know what's happened in Israel. So that's why this is a very dangerous situation. And once it could happen that one government decide to stop sourcing the maintenance of devices or software from their own companies. And then what's happened to the supply chain? So these are, let's say, questions that are discussed, let's say, in the like-minded community since 10 years from now. And the most probably visible event was, you know, the fact of creating a few or moving part of the supply chain, creating new ecosystems in trusted countries. Let's look what is happening in US. Biden did the ERA, the Inflation Reduction Act and the Chip and Science Act, whose aim is to bring back part of or almost all the supply chain of microchips in the US. And this is because they don't want to be dependent from any other country. And in small sides, with all the issue that Europe has, we try to do the same with the Chips Act. But still we are very far from being a single unit as Europe. And so the effect of this act, even though they are very important, but the net effect, I think, will be very weak with respect to the others that are carried out in other countries.
So Roberto, while we're getting there, and it's difficult, and we don't know when we'll get to this sovereignty or some measure self-sufficiency in terms of chips, for instance, but not only chips, many
operating systems, telco devices, AI services, cloud services.
My question: until we are in this path to this self sufficiency, how do you think we could improve? And now I'm thinking more even in terms of the countries. How do you think we can improve transparency in supply chains, for instance, software supply chains, in data supply chains? How do you think we could improve this transparency?
Oh, actually, in several meetings between trusted countries, we came up with logically a very simple idea. Then it will be very difficult to implement it. which is the using what we call a SBOM, a software bill of material. So a kind of, I would say, certificate that is attached to any kind of code that is created by some company and is a part of the devices that is inside the supply chain and at the end provide the service. So actually, there could be this kind of, different certificates. And when you are at the very top of the supply chain, think about the big tech, they are able also to check how the software has been developed, who was the guy that developed the software. And because we know that, coming back to the issue on the supply chain, of course, we had many intrusion in the supply chain due to cyber attack. This is one reason, and we have to improve and we have to make everything more secure, but also from insiders. And in order to check if some insider add some specific code that can be used as a backdoor afterwards, then we need to track any line of code that is written and that at the end makes the big service. And now, especially in the US, CISA and NSA actually, and US NIST came up with a sequence of documents about how to use the software bill of material in order to try to make as more resilient as possible the supply chain. And this is the technical part. From the let's say non-technical part, of course, what we should try to do is to use inside the supply chain the most percentage of trusted companies, which means, of course, coming from countries where that we know that they have our same value, because values can be very easily transferred into software and devices, and we can touch this very heavily with artificial intelligence. So that's why it's very important.
Yeah. So, let's come to this to this binomial of the trustworthy software with all the issues that you just mentioned, and now AI. So what you just mentioned is that we need to have this bill of materials, this trustworthy supply chain where you actually know who did this, who did that, what was the code, how the code has been developed, and so on. And we know that when we look at code, we more or less effort with more or less formal tools and testing tools, we can say something about the code we are looking into. Okay, and then if it is trustworthy, if we compile it and we have the code running, there's some trustworthiness on it. But when we go into artificial intelligence, when we go to and by artificial intelligence here, I'm just thinking about everything that is going on with machine learning software models, where you simply you cannot look at the code. Okay, you cannot look at the code. You know that has been trained by trillion tokens, by terabytes, gigabytes, petabytes of data, by trustworthy people, but at the end you have something that when it says it's red, you cannot trace it back why it says it's red. You have to trust. How can we deal with this?
That's the challenge for the next years. And when I say next years, it means the real close future, okay? So maybe in 5 years, we will have a great revolution with AI. Of course, AI, as you mentioned, let's say for people that maybe is not very aware what AI is, that AI is around us since 50 years and is in the company. We have software that run AI algorithms in company since maybe 30 years. So it's a technology that that we master in the sense that we know we use it, but definitely there is a huge difference with respect to all the other programs that we created so far. The big difference, the huge difference is that we don't know how it works. Very simple. We don't know how it works, but it works. So someone, and you know, Hinton that took also the Nobel Prize this year, discovered that if you are able to train a specific network of neurons, okay, where neurons is kind of a stupid, let's say, integrator of signal, at the end, and you put this in networks, at the end, you are able to recognize specific pattern. But no one knows how this knowledge is, let's say, casted inside these weights of the neural networks in a machine learning scenario. And this is really scaring for many different reasons. Of course, when I say this, let me also add that I am a fan of AI. I think that with AI, we can solve problems that without the AI, it would take to humans perhaps 2 centuries in order to reach. But maybe we don't have 2 centuries because we have global warming coming. We have a lot of issues, and we have seen with the pandemic what could happen. So we need some ally in order to understand how to manage all these huge problems for the human race. And I think that artificial intelligence is the answer. So we need to develop artificial intelligence without hesitation, but at the same time, we need to tackle this artificial intelligence very strictly until we don't understand how this machine learning works. And of course, we have a lot of risks that are rising. Till a few years ago, we didn't know what was toxic content, hallucinations. I read recently a paper of some guy from California that actually listed 16 different kind of hallucinations for an AI. And of course, each of this kind has to be handled and has to be managed from a risk perspective in a specific way. But this is what we know now. Maybe running more and more complex artificial intelligence, there will be many other risks rising. I can just mention, you know, probably, Rui, what's happened a few days ago when Gemini, that is the AI of Google, replied to one question that was posted by some guys that they invited Gemini, this student or young researcher, to kill himself because the human race is actually, let's say, just wasting all the resources of the earth. of course, we are lucky that right now this is just a message. Of course, it's already scaring because it depends to the people, to the person that receive this message. This can create some psychological breakage, but at the same time, imagine what could happen when we will have millions of agents of AI that will be connected to actuators and sensors in order to increase their own knowledge. So I imagine, for example, that if I would be a pharma industry, it would be nice to have a laboratory managed by an artificial intelligence in order to create experiment after experiments to check molecules, in order to create a new pharma, a new drugs, maybe against cancer. But of course, this AI has to be connected to sensors and actuators of this lab. So imagine when you have millions and then they start talking together. So that would be a very difficult moment for us. And actually this will happen because now with, you know, the LLM, the problem is that we have a kind of friend that is in the other side of a door. We pass messages below the door and the guy replies us with messages that, by the way, are becoming more and more precise and accurate in their answer. And I think that anybody can check this in the space of a couple of years.
Mm-hmm. So, Roberto, how do you think Europe is dealing with this? How does the AI Act, for instance, fits into this?
I think that you know, the best way to react to the new threat that AI brings in the picture was to create, as has been done by you know, UK and the US and Singapore as well, to create a specific institution that analyzes and studies these risks. So handling, I would say, from a technical point of view. What's happened to Europe is that we started the discussion that brought to an act, which is mainly non-technical and driven by other issues, which are lawyers, of course, first, but also bringing inside issues like ethics that we don't know right now really how to handle because we don't know. So in order to talk about ethics, we need first to understand which are the risks, what could be, I mean, as we did in cybersecurity. In cybersecurity, we start understanding we had an issue with attacks. It was 2006. I mean, serious issue, not kids that were creating worms and then it took 8 years in order to have a comprehensive risk playbook that was the US NIST playbook on cybersecurity. And what I believe is that we need probably the same order of magnitude on years in order to have something that can try to address how to manage risks coming from AI. But we need to do that. I mean, so talking about, you know, just stopping using specific AIs without any specific ground on what are the risks. This is first an issue for European industry. And I don't know if you know, Rui, but anyone that is working in Europe right now on AI knows very well that many services that are available in US and in other part of the world, AI services, are not available in Europe. Why? Because, you know, big tech now are very careful to release this in Europe, this kind of services, because they don't know how, you know, the European Commission could react, because we are not talking about technical stuff. We are talking about other issues. And when you have other issues that come into play of a technological stuff, then you don't know how to handle it. So that's, and this is a huge problem for Europe as a whole. So as you can imagine, Rui, I am not very enthusiastic about the AI Act that was voted in April this year.
Yeah, I cannot say I am, but so the somehow from the cybersecurity threats and what we know from all these years, understanding what the risks were, how things could happen, we learned that most of the risks, or many of the risks, I don't want to say most, but many of the risks are on the social part, are on the education, are on people, are on social engineering, whatever you want to call it. With this AI era, it seems that because we don't know, we just push it to the technological part, to whatever is being done. So to the mystic era of the problems and the sources of the problems. On the other hand, we know that this is maybe also a lack or of education, of literacy, as we now used to say, and and this also comes. I don't know. This is only from a result from disinformation, or it's a whole thing. So we have so when we have this information, we have data that we do not control. We have all this broadcast medium nowadays that you can say whatever you want. So we have data that we not control, but at the same time, we have people that so we people, not that we have people, we people are not enough educated and reliable to absorb this data. So how do you think that we should proceed to get more informed people, more people? Look, it's
Hello?
you hear me?
Yes, now you were freezing for a few seconds.
Okay. So do you think that we can um, uh, really counter uh, uh, the not only information campaigns, but uh, our literacy them?
Unfortunately, Rui, I cannot hear you very well. So, are you hearing me well right now?
I do. I am. Yes, I
Okay.
am.
So I can, I think I got the question. So disinformation and, let's say, workforce for a nation. So first of all, let me say that disinformation is one of the major issues that we have, for the reason that you mentioned, that we have right now in the Western countries. How we can handle this? I can tell you what's happening in some Scandinavian country like Sweden, where has been built a psychological agency. So actually an agency that target specific disinformation coming from specific countries like Russia. And this is done in order to prepare the people to massive disinformation campaign that can come from that country. And you know probably that Sweden and Germany are now preparing playbook for enterprises how to handle if Russia, if something will happen, everyone hope not, of course, between Russia and NATO. And of course, the people has to learn. So it's a main task of the government to raise the level of awareness of the population. I told you that everyone has to know about the risk in cyberspace according to the level that he has in the society. If I am a CEO of a company, I know that I have to, I need to know, first of all the laws about on cybersecurity, European, national, and so on and so forth, and impose to my company that all the lines are followed, are compliant to the laws, and all the guidelines are followed. And I cannot release this to the technical people. So the CEO has to be responsible for this, and together with the executive boards of the companies. And this is already happening in the US through the SEC, that is actually bringing to a trial SolarWinds, that was a company that suffered the major attacks a few years ago due to negligence with respect to cybersecurity techniques that they employed in their products, and this will happen more and more. And I expect that also in Europe something will happen on this. But at the same time, also my father, my mother, your kids need to be aware that they are living in another world. It's not the physical world that we know since we were born, but it's another world that has its own rules, basic hygiene rules that you have to follow. And this is also a task of the government, that because the country that will make its own population more aware at each level of the society about what is a cyber threat, which includes also the AI threat and the disinformation part, that will reach the majority of the population, almost all the population. This country will be, I would say, more prepared to any situation, and also to take the wealth that this can bring to the country itself. The second point is about the workforce. So we need people that is able to manage all this complexity. And you know better than me that the core people is the one that has a STEM diploma, a STEM laurea, a STEM certificate. Now, what is the major problem that we have as a Western country is that we don't have a lot of STEM students. This is true for Italy, for France, I imagine for Portugal, but also for US. And, because Western countries have a very important value, which is that, everyone can decide its own path in the education. So I have 3 children, for example, and all of them decide to grow up in a different field than STEM, so more humanist. But there are other countries where you are not really free to select which is your path of study. I'm talking about the country with planned economies. So now these guys will have, a workforce for their usage, while the Western could start, to steal one to the other, and something is already happening. Actually, students or, young researcher of engineers or mathematicians. So we really need to think as Western democracies how to face this. Don't forget that there are studies that say that in 2030, for the digital, for all the digital sector, there would be a shortage of 80 millions of positions. So what will happen afterwards? Once you have a Portuguese CEO that want to hire people, and the HR manager say, we don't have any good person to hire. And I know if there is someone from HR, this is already happening now. So you need either to lower your quality, or you start hiring people that maybe is not very trustworthy. So it's a very delicate. So if you ask me what is the worst threat for digital sovereignty in the next 10 years, from the technical part, I would say how to manage AI, but then is workforce.
Exactly. Yeah. So, and just to come to an end of our conversation with a positive note.
No, I started with a positive note. I said we have to continue developing everything in order to, solve complex problems that we are not able to solve it as humans.
Exactly, but the outlook in terms of workforce of people capable of dealing with these issues in the short term, as you say, it's a major threat. And so, do you think, and I hope you do, that Europe is poised to restructure not only our dependence on the supply chains, but also on the social part, on the workforce. So are you? So there's hope, right?
Yeah, I think I am very pessimist about this for a very simple reason. In order to change things from technology viewpoint, so creating ecosystems in Europe for microchip, for operating system, for cloud, for AI, for everything, we would really need to act as a nation, okay? As a single nation. Now Europe, because this is a national security matter, and if you look at the European Union agreement, so the old one, national security is out of the scope, completely out of the scope of Europe. So either the same is for industrial plan. The industrial plan of Portugal is done by the Portuguese government. So we have 27, let's say, industrial plants that are overlapped. Italy, France, Germany, they do maybe 3 times the same thing. Portugal as well, Spain. So we don't think as a single entity. Until we don't have this, look at what is happening for having a single military for Europe. So we are not able to come up with this. Of course, things are even worse after this European election, because, you know, the Nationalist Party took more votes. So either, coming back to your question, we come back to a Europe as a single nation. The more we approach to this, so single foreign affair, single military, single industrial plan, if we are not able to reach a good level of integration of this, I think that Europe will go to diminish in any geopolitical affair. And we are already checking this with India. We are already checking this with Russia. We are already checking this with China. We are already checking this with Brazil, that you should know very well. So that's why either we go, as has been reported in the Draghi's document, the Draghi's report that has been delivered to the Commission, for a major integration, at least in industry, military, and you know, we don't have any European champions in industry. We don't have any European cloud provider. We don't have any, I mean, we still have telco with Ericsson and Nokia, but in any other field, because that comes from historical reason. But in any other field, we don't have any major player. And you know, Rui, this is a huge problem, because you know, maybe the innovation is done in small, medium, or small enterprises, startup. That's true, the first innovation. Then who define the road is the big tech. Look at Microsoft and OpenAI. And if we don't have a big tech, we have huge problem. Because the first thing that you have to do in a digital sovereignty sphere is to manage your own data, the data of Europe. If you are not able to do that, then, I mean, we can do something in the technical sphere. We know we can, you know, cipher the data. We can split the data using secret sharing, any other, you know, things that we developed in the last 40 years of scientific findings. But at the end of the day, if your data is moving somewhere else, it's always difficult to defend that data.
Okay. So we are prey for this divide and conquer strategy. We are already divided, right? So this might be this might be the overarching thread.
But you know, Rui, Europe had the major point of union when there was the pandemic. Probably we need the kind of shock from outside, and maybe the shock will come January 20, so it's not very far in time.
25.
I am referring
okay.
to the change of the president in the US. So maybe at that time people realize that we need to stand close each other in order to, you know, to survive, in order to defend our richness for our young generation. Because don't forget that all these things the more Europe becomes less relevant from a geopolitical viewpoint, it's like a piece of richness that is transferred to some other country. And the richness of the world is an invariant. So if someone gain it, someone lose it.
Yeah.
Okay.
That was it. Okay. Thank you so much, Roberto, and thank you again. I really appreciate all your availability to talk with us and to help us. Yeah, so thank you very much, and all the best for your new endeavors. Okay.
Thank you very
Thank you
much,
so much
Louis,
to
and
everyone. Yeah, sorry.
thank you for hosting me, and hope there will be some other occasion, maybe in Porto next year.
Let's look for it. Okay, thank you so much, and to everyone who was with us, thank you so much, and I hope this was informative and challenging and inspiring for you all. So thank you again, and to the next time.